a rustic garden sign, old buckets, rusty old cans. Antique signs are all perfect accessories for the vintage garden. Hello, my crafty dolls. Welcome to my craft room. I am Grandma Katie. I am so glad you're here. Well, summer is almost here, so I want to make sure that my dollhouse is ready for the summer, especially the garden. So I went ahead and designed a really cute vintage garden printable over on Etsy. All you do is go over to Etsy and download it and print it out. And I'm going to have the link down in the description box below. And if you're here for the first time or you purchased this over on Etsy, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you enjoy my designs, I would love to have you back. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to elevate these designs and really make them pop. This collection really reflects how I decorate my own garden. Rusty, rusty, rusty. Rustier the better. And I love to use old fruit cans, old vegetable cans, old buckets, and I have a coffee can down here. And what I do is I use them as my pots, and they are so cute. I also love signs. I have them all over my yard. I also collect license plates, so that's why there's license plates on here. I have them all over my backyard, my gazebo, they're all over the top and then down the posts. Love license plates. And then I do have a little directional sign here for the garden, and then an old crate. Sometimes I have old crates that are almost falling apart, so I'll throw them in the garden for the season. They look so cute. So I hope you enjoy this rusty garden look as much as I do. So I want to show you a couple things that you're going to need for this project. First, you need really good paper. And I use the Hammermill paper. It's 28 pounds. This is going to give you a really crisp print, very colorful. You also need glue that is specially made for paper. So if you watch my show a lot, you know I love Grandmother Silver's glue. This is especially made for paper. It's not going to bubble or wrinkle your paper or discolor it. And then if you don't have this, can't find it, you can use the Elmer's craft glue. This is especially made for paper. Now this isn't the what do you call it? The glue stick your kids use. No, this is not. This is very special. It's over by the scrapbook section. I also want to emphasize, do not use tacky glue. Tacky glue will ruin the paper. It'll discolor it, it'll make it bubble, and you won't get a good look. And then also you're going to need some fake flowers. So any fake flowers will do. I like the little waxy ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to print out our buckets and our crates, and we're going to fill them with cute little flowers. So let's get started. Here we have our rusty garden printable all printed out. It has 2 pages. The first page has the garden signs. We're going to make a little directional sign with these and a little milk crate. Second page has some cans, 2 small buckets, 2 large buckets, and a coffee can. So we're just going to cut everything out along the image here. So make sure you have a nice, clean, fresh blade on your X-Acto knife. Sometimes a pair of scissors works just as good, so you can switch back and forth. And a nice ruler, so you get a straight edge. So go ahead and put on some music. This is a little time consuming. We're just going to cut everything out. All right, I have all my stuff cut out, and I'm going to start by doing one of the large buckets. And I want to kind of remind you that there are these little tabs under the buckets and the cans, and these little tabs are going to help hold on our bottom. So don't cut those off. So just wanted to remind you of that. So we're going to first start by cutting out the hole. And the holes on the large buckets, you can use a smaller hole punch. So this is not a standard size. It's about half the size of a regular hole punch. All right, so we got the holes for the buckets. And for the larger buckets, I like to use some cord. So I got some rustic cord and some thicker string for the handles. So on the side of the bucket, we have the little flap here, And I'm just going to take my straight edge and fold that flap over, and that is going to hold our bucket together. And I'm just going to use my nails and give that a good crease. And then when you fold this over, you can see that it will go together really nicely. Now I'm using my thick glue here, and I'm just going to put a generous amount on that flap. We're just going to roll that over to assemble the bucket. Just like that. Pretty simple. Now the bottom, we're going to use those flaps to help the bottom stay on. And we're not going to worry about the diameter being perfect. We're going to cut that off later. So we're just going to put some dabs of glue on those little flaps. And we're just going to put the bottom on. And then we're just going to let that dry. Now again, it's probably going to be a little bit too big, the bottom, which is fine. When it dries, we're just going to cut that off. So don't worry about that. Okay, now we're going to let that little guy dry. And the rest of the buckets are going to be the same way, even the coffee can. So, okay, once it's dry, we are just going to go ahead and cut off that bottom excess around the bottom. Go ahead and just cut that off. So we have a nice flush bottom. Okay, we got the bottom on there. It's all flush now. Looks good. And here I'm just going to put the rope through the holes there. Tie those off to make a handle. And don't tie too tight. That's paper. You don't want to rip the paper. There we go. And we have our first little bucket ready to go. Now the smaller buckets are pretty much the same way, but the little holes at the top, they're very, very small. So you don't make a hole punch that small. So what we can do is we can either take a really thick needle and poke that through. Poke it right through there and make a nice hole. That'll give you the perfect hole. And again, this is assembled the same way as the larger bucket. We have our flaps at the bottom. Okay, now we have our little bucket here. And I'm just going to trim the bottom a little bit. Okay, now for the handle for our small buckets, you have two options. You can use wire to make a handle, and on the printout there is a template for the wire. I find it's a little tedious to do the wire because this is so fragile, and I find it easier to use a thread and needle. So I just have some thread here that I doubled up and a simple knot at the end. And I'm going to thread it through the inside first so we can hide that knot. And then we are going to go through the other side and just get your desired length. And there we go. Now we have a nice handle for our bucket. And then here's the other bucket. I put the wire on there, and then I put a little bead for a little handle. So little option there. So for the smaller cans, it's pretty much the same way. There are two little dots up here, and those are little holes if you want to put some wire or some string if you want to hang your little bucket up with some flowers in it. So go ahead and use your thick needle to poke holes through there. And then rotate that around and secure it. And you secure your bottom. And here are the little cans. I have 2 with string, so we can put flowers in there and hang them up. And then 1 I have with wire. So whichever you prefer. It is easier to do the string. So if you don't have a whole lot of patience, do the string. So, okay, for the crate, it is pretty easy to assemble. All we're going to do is we're going to fold all the flaps. So these are all the flaps on the top, on the side, and then on the bottom of the box. So we're going to take our ruler and we're just going to fold those over. And then you want to fold the sides of the box. Okay, once you have all of the flaps and the sides creased and folded, you're going to take the top flaps and fold them over. And you're going to use your nail and just go ahead and crease that fold really. And these are just going to be glued and folded down. So we can use that. And I'm going to use my glue stick because I can just kind of swipe it over the top of it. And you can take a flat edge and then press those down really nice. Now for the bottom, you're going to fold the tabs in to form the bottom. And then you can kind of see how the box is going to be assembled. So here I'm just going to switch over to my other glue and I'm going to put glue on those tabs on the bottom of the box. And then you take the sides of your box and the bottom and you just roll. And they should fit together very nicely to form the bottom. And then pinch and maneuver to make sure everything is lined up. And when you get to the end here, we're going to put more glue onto this tab here. And that is just going to come around and finish your grate. And then you can see on the inside, we're just going to take a little flat edge and just press those flaps down. Good. And then there's your crate. Pretty easy. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the sides, and we're not just going to leave them on paper. We're going to put them on some wood. And I just have some larger popsicle sticks. And then these are pre-cut little pieces of wood. You can find these in the craft store. Very convenient. So that sort of the longer ones we're going to put on the popsicle sticks. So we're going to go ahead and put our signs right in the glue stick. Some generous glue on there. And we're just going to glue them on. I'm just going to glue them on. So we're going to put all of these on some wood. And then we're going to cut them out. Okay, now once you have your signs glued to your wood and your popsicle sticks, we are going to cut these out. And you're going to want to use like a box cutter for this, nice sharp blade. And you want to be really careful with this. Now, I don't want to cut the actual paper because I might ruin it. So I'm going to go just below and I'm just going to score it. And I'm going to go real lightly. And I'm going to keep going back and forth very lightly. And this will prevent you from slipping and cutting yourself. If you press down really hard and try to struggle through, your blade is going to slip and you are going to cut yourself. And there we go. Now when you go against the grain here, it's going to be a little tougher. So again, you just keep scoring and keep going through that line very gently. And when you're going across the grain like this, you want to go about halfway down. You pick it up and then you snap it. So you want to snap it with the label and snap it in, just like that, and it'll come right off. Okay, I have my signs all cut out. Here are some of them. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take a little sand block and I'm just going to sand all the edges and get all those rough spots off. Okay, here are my signs all ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my antiquing medium to make them look old. So I'm going to paint the sides and the back so they look like old, rusty, grimy old signs. And if you don't have this, go ahead and just paint with brown paint if you want. Maybe water it down just a hair so it's not so thick. And you can use that too. And as long as I got my paint out, I'm going to use a stir stick. And this is going to be the post for our directional sign. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that too. And then on the top here, you might see like the white of the paper from where it was cut. And you can fill that in. You can even put a little on the top to make it look even older if you want. Whatever you want to do, be creative. Okay, here are my signs that I antiqued at the back. And I did a little antiquing on the front of them, whenever I kind of felt like it. As long as I have my paint out, I'm going to go back to my cans, and I can see that there's some white on the bottom here, and that bothers me. So I am just going to go over and paint that in. Let's get rid of those white spots. I'm just going to paint that in. It's a little detail overload, but it'll bother me if I see the white of the paper. All right, when the signs are all dry, we're going to go ahead and put some Mod Podge over the top of it. And that's going to seal the paper from peeling off. And I'm going to use the satin finish for this. I don't want them glossy because, again, they're supposed to be old. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and coat the top, the back, and the sides. And this is a good chance if your paper is coming up, go ahead and put that underneath it and then glue it back down. So I'm going to do this to all the signs, give them a nice seal, and just a very light gloss, very subtle. Okay, we are done with our signs, and they look great. They look old and rustic, worn out, look like they've been in an antique mall for a few years. Now you can either leave them like this and you can prop them up on a table or put them on the side of your house, or we can put them on little posts. These are just old spindles I have laying around, and I just antique them. I put a little bit of dried paint on there too to make them look like they were old, maybe table legs. And we can go ahead and put that right on here. We have a cute little garden sign for the garden or the front yard. So just be creative. I also can use these pre-made sticks are really good. The stir sticks are really good too. Those make good posts. This was left over from cutting up the signs. This was part of the popsicle stick. So I thought, oh, that looks like a really good, scrap piece of wood someone might use for a post for a sign. So you can put these on a signpost. Be creative, do whatever you want to do with them. I do have a little directional sign here, which I'm going to put on this little stir stick. So I'm just going to glue these on there for my garden, my little country garden. Okay, here are my signs. Aren't they so cute? Here's my little directional sign for the garden. And I put some of the signs on those posts. And then I have my little Main Street sign with the license plate. Again, I love license plates in the garden. It's just so quirky and unexpected. So I got those little signs, and I want to add some moss to it because when you have things in the garden for a while, it tends to grow a little bit of moss. And I am just going to add a little bit of glue, and I'm just using my Mod Podge for this because it's already out. And just take a little bit of moss. Helps to use tweezers. Let's kind of stick that in there a little bit. It's that little extra touch that makes it cute. Okay, we have come to the best part of the project. We are going to fill our buckets, our cans, and our little crate with flowers. So I have a little bit of moss here, all different colors. And over in the flower section, go ahead and try to find some small little buds, little tiny flowers. I like the waxy ones. Just study them. And actually, these types of fake flowers are really inexpensive. In fact, I got this one at Walmart. And it's pretty big bunch here. And then all I'm going to do is snip off the top. So I'm just going to make little flowers like that. I also got these at Walmart. I have all different colors. This would probably be good for fall. And they're small. I can actually even take this apart and then glue it in separately. So you have all these little bits that you can just tuck in part of your arrangement. So you just have to be creative. You don't have to buy the tiny little flowers over by the models because they are expensive. We can kind of do good on our own here. Again, with the leaves, try to find little leaves and just snip off a little bit. Okay, I have all my flowers kind of set up here, and I'm going to start with the coffee can, and I'm just going to put a little bit of moss on the bottom there, hang it over the side a little bit. This is the time to just be creative. And here are those tiny little flowers I got from Walmart, and I cut them up. Let's have those hanging out on the side. This is the stuff I like to do. You could almost keep it just like this. That looks really cute. Maybe put a little moss, just a little different color moss on the front. Doesn't that look cute? Very easy. And we are going to do that to all of these and just be creative. Okay, here are my rusty buckets. They are finished. I spent a really nice quiet afternoon arranging the flowers. Very cute. Here are the little ones here, all with flowers in them, and we're going to hang those in the garden. And if you don't want to do the flowers, you can just fill it with moss. Okay, let's go to the dollhouse and play, and let's see how everything looks in the garden. All right, my crafty dolls, that is it for me today. Sorry my kitty video was a little long. You can tell I really want to get out into my own garden and start working. But since it's still winter, I have to play with my dollhouse garden. And if you love to play with your dollhouse as much as I do, go ahead and leave me some comments and tell me all about it. And if you don't know what to say, just leave me a yellow heart. And remember, everything you've seen on today's show, you can go to my Etsy shop and download it very easily. And I will leave the link in the description box below. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.